Welcome to Keep Traveling Your African Story, the only podcast that shares the real voices and journeys shaping African tourism. I'm your host, 𝐸𝐤𝐸, and through my inbound tour operation, Keep Traveling, I've had the privilege of connecting travelers from all around the world with the magic of Africa. This podcast is my way of opening that world up to you, a place to learn about the people, properties, and opportunities that make travel across this continent so very special. Today, I'm excited to introduce Kristina Plattner, who's the Managing Director of Kamba African Rainforest Experiences, who joins me to share her African story. Kristina, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you, 𝐸𝐸. Thanks for having me today.
So, Kristina, for our international listeners, tell us first of all, where is the Kamba African Experience actually situated in Africa? And how's going to be the best way to navigate to get there?
So Kamba African Rainforest Experiences is based on the Congo Basin, the second biggest rainforest on the planet after the Amazon. We are based in the Republic of the Congo, which is the little sister to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, which is on the opposite side of the Congo River. Two separate countries, two separate governments, two different set of public holidays, and also different access routes. So we have a daily flight from Paris to Brazzaville, which is the capital of the Republic of the Congo. There's a daily flight from Addis Ababa, which connects to the rest of the world, and there's a bi-weekly flight from Johannesburg in South Africa.
Okay, now, I've gotten to Brazzaville, but I haven't gotten to the camps, and I know there's 3 camps. First of all, let's talk about your favorite, because I assume you have one that sort of supersedes the other. And how are we going to get from Brazzaville to that property?
So Kamba operates a charter plane in the Congo, which flies every Monday and Thursday from Brazzaville to the camps. It takes about an hour and 45, 2 hours from start to landing. It's flown by international pilots. It's an international company that we charter from. So it's a 2-engine, 2-prop, 2-pilot plane that goes up every Monday and Thursday to the camp. So what we do, we usually collect the people at the Brazzaville airport, because the word Congo can sometimes make people a little bit nervous. So we really make sure that it's a fully covered and looked after journey. We collect the people at immigration, help them collect their luggage, take them to Brazzaville. Through Brazzaville, they often overnight, one night after their arrival, because Air France arrives in the evening mostly. And the next day we bring them back to the airport for their charter flight to the park. The plane actually lands inside the park on a little grass strip, and from there onwards, our staff, our guides and managers take the guests over. All the guests always have to visit, or usually visit, all 3 camps during one trip. So it's 7, 10 and 11 night trips. So you go to all 3 camps. My personal favorite out of the 3 is the second lodge everyone goes to, and that would be Lango Lodge. Why do I love Lango Lodge? Lango is very special in that it's the only lodge that we know about on the African continent that sits on a bay. A bay is a clearing in the rainforest, so it's an opening in the thick rainforest that was created by the elephants. What happens is that the water leaches salts into certain areas in the forest, which then make the elephants come out to dig there for the salts at night. It's basically how they replenish their electrolytes. Like we drink drinks or take electrolyte tablets. That's how the elephants replenish their electrolytes when they sweat. So they create these openings in the forest. These openings then attract other animals in. So what we get at Lango Bay, we get buffalo, we get bongo, we get forest hogs, we get massive flocks of African grey parrots. And Lango is so special, the lodge is so special. It just sits on the edge of that bay, not intruding on it. It sits on the edge between the forest and the clearing. And one can really just sit on the deck and watch what the animals do all day. Or what we offer the guests is that they can go out with a guide and actually walk around and really explore this forest ecosystem on foot by walking in these elephant-created waterways.
You spoke about the charter flight from Brazzaville. Is that the only way that I can get to the properties? Is there a way that if I'm really adventurous, I might be able to hire a 4x4 and trek across, or is that going to become a little bit dangerous?
No, it's actually quite safe to drive in the Congo. They've got very good roads. A lot of the roads now are tar roads in the Congo. They were redone 10, 15 years ago. Congo is a very safe country. We are mostly female management team. We go out in the capital. We go out for drinks in the evening. We go out for dinner. We take a taxi alone. We happily driving through the country. So it's a very, very safe country. It's very different to its partner country, the Democratic Republic of Congo, on the other side of the river. So yes, people can drive up themselves if they want to. We get a lot of overlanders who actually come over. We're only 70 kilometers from the Gabonese border, so we actually get overlanders who come over from Gabon to drive in. The only thing is that the park is not a self-driving park. So what happens is that guests have to leave their vehicle at the park headquarters at APN at the entrance to the park. And from there onwards, we would have to pick the guests up and take them to the lodges that they want to see. The park itself, which is maybe quite interesting, Odzala National Park is 13,500 square kilometers. To put it in perspective, that's the size of the country of Montenegro or half the size of the country of Rwanda. And there are only 70 kilometers of road inside the park. There wouldn't actually much to see for people in a car. So besides that, it's not a self-driving park. It's also not that there wouldn't be much one can do by park. So hence the cars stay at the park headquarters and then we pick the guests up. And a lot of the actual activities are done either on foot or by boat.
You've mentioned a couple of times that you're the smaller cousin to the bigger DRC. Since you share borders, what makes it so safe in the Republic of Congo versus the DRC?
That's a good question. That's a very political question. I can't give you an exact answer to that. I think one of the answers is that we're a much smaller nation. The DRC has many different tribes that have all become part of one big country. We are a much smaller country. To just give a little comparison, for example, the whole Republic of the Congo has about 8 million inhabitants, I think, at the last census. Kinshasa, which is the capital of the DRC, has between 18 and 22 million inhabitants. So our country has, the entire country's population is a third of the size of just of the capital of the DRC. So I think the population size, that it's very sparsely populated, has a lot to do with it. It's just simply not as conflict-riddled. The Republic of the Congo is an ex-French colony. The Democratic Republic of the Congo was an ex-Belgium colony. So they're just two completely distinct countries with different governments.
Okay, and you're right. We don't want to get too political, but I wanted to make the listeners feel safe about coming there. So now, Tina, we land at Lango Bay. What can people expect as far as your camp setup, the amenities, their rooms? Give us a little bit of feedback as far as what they can expect once they land there.
Kamba is all about the experience on the ground. So I think the first thing I should maybe clear up is that you don't land into Lango. Arriving at Lango is an experience in itself. So as I said, it's the second lodge in our circuit of lodges. And what we usually do, we drive the people by car to a little embarcadero, which is a little jetty basically, where they get into kayaks. Their luggage is taken care of by the car. And then people kayak down the 𝐸𝐶𝐿𝐸 River, which takes between an hour and a half, depending on how high the water levels are at the time and how fast the river is flowing. It's an easy kayak. There are no rapids or anything, and it's all downstream. Once the river gets too shallow, we leave the kayaks on the side of the river and actually start walking. So you arrive into the lodge walking through the rainforest. And on that walk, you might already meet buffalo or elephant or something. So it's quite an exciting walk. The real first touch point where people walk in the wet forest. All the walking before at Lango Lodge and with the gorillas and things is dry walks. So this is the first wet walk in the Congo. And I always find that really is what Kamba is about. It's about those experiences, being part of nature, being immersive. Then when you get to the camps, you can expect either an ice-cold cocktail if that's what you want, or a glass of water, or a hot drink, depending on what the weather was like. It's usually cold drinks that people want. And then the rooms have nice, comfy double beds with feather duvets, hot and cold showers, a beautiful view. The sides of the rooms are open. We don't have them in glassed. They're very, very tiny mesh with tiny holes to keep insects and vermin out. But you basically can hear the forest the whole time you're at Kamba. You get the natural airflow. We still have fans above the beds. So you have all those amenities. We do not have enough power to run hair dryers, for example. That's one thing we don't have. So you cannot compare us to a one and only, for example, or a 𝐸𝐞𝐿𝐸. We're really more about what happens out there. And then your room is a place where you come and you recover, you lie down, you have a good night's rest before you go on your adventure the next day again. We always praise for our good kitchen, so that's maybe something I should mention, is that a lot of people praise us for the good food we make. And it's really a mix between Congolese and French international food. So we try to use as many Congolese ingredients as we can and what's seasonal, but still keep the dishes in a way that people recognize them from home. You know, it's still potatoes and pasta and your meats. seafood, but everything with a little Congolese twist, which people seem to really enjoy.
So you obviously, because of where you're situated, your journeys that you plan for everybody are all inclusive, because no one can really go out anywhere else to eat or anywhere else to drink. So it's an all-inclusive package, right?
Yes. So our pack, when we quote somebody, it includes everything. It usually includes a night in a hotel in Brazzaville. It includes the flights to the camp, all the foods and the drinks besides premium drinks. It's all included, all the gorilla permit, the gorilla tracking permits, all the guided walks, the transfers, everything is included in the package. The only thing the guests have to book themselves on top of it are the flights to Brazzaville, or their tour operator has to book for them on top of it. We really offer the full package besides the international flights, just to really make it easy for the guests, again, for them to feel safe, to feel looked after. We take care of everything.
So I've landed in Lango. As you say, we sort of land, we don't arrive. What wildlife can I expect to see? And I'm not just talking about the big ones. I also talk about the sort of smaller flora and fauna interests as well. So what can I expect to see as a visitor at this property?
So I know you say we mustn't mention the big ones, but Lango is very famous for its elephant population. They love coming out at night, especially. We have a night scope out so people can watch them play in the bay. The elephant and the buffalo are the big ones, but the small ones, birding, as I mentioned, the African grey parrots come out in flocks of hundreds, green pigeons. And then I think interesting in the Congo is really, we differ to a big five safari, for example, that you don't see an impala or a buck at every street corner. The forest is thick, the rainforest. You can potentially walk past an elephant within 30 or 40 meters without realizing it's in the forest. The forest is that thick. So you really go out there very quietly and humble and listening to the forest and becoming one of the forest. And what that leads to is that you start seeing all the small animals too. We have head-banging termites, which start banging their heads and making a noise when you walk past them, which is a really interesting thing to see. So people love those. We've got little praying mantises that are really pink or green. So anyone who's interested in insects or just interested in those small things, butterflies, we have butterfly migrations that come through when you feel like you've ended in elfland with just blue and pink and yellow and white butterflies flying past you. So people find that interesting. Birding is quite challenging, the birding, with the thickness of the vegetation, but it's also very rewarding when you see certain birds in the Congo. Then obviously we have all kinds of smaller monkey species, smaller antelopes, we get water chevroton, and then an animal that not a lot of people associate with the Congo, but which we actually get to see quite a lot at Lango, are hyenas. They are our apex predator in the Congo. We don't have lion in the park, so they're quite big hyenas, and we tend to see, we know where their dens are, so we actually tend to see hyenas quite a bit, which is quite interesting.
Very interesting. And tell me about the guests that you take. Do you take kids on? Is there a certain age bracket? And what is going to be the best time for me to visit you as far as weather-wise is concerned?
So we don't allow children under 15. That is, for once, IUCN protocol for the gorillas. You can't go gorilla tracking in the Congo if you're younger than 15. So the year in which you turn 15, or from when you've turned 15, you can come to Kamba. Also for walking in the forests and stuff, all our walks are unarmed. Also park protocol. So we just need to make sure that the guests really listen to what the guides say and manage to stay quiet for multiple hours in time. The best time to travel? That's a good question. We are open all year round, and it is a bit guest dependent. So we have a drier season. It is a rainforest. So you will get wet one way or another. Sometimes from the top, you will definitely get wet from walking through water. We offer that all the time. So the drier season is June to September, and then again December to February are the two drier seasons. And then the wetter season, obviously March to May and the end of September to November. Then it really depends a bit on what you like. During the wetter season, when it rains more, we find the rivers are higher. So we can actually be a little bit more adventurous with the boats. We can go further away to clearings in the forest that we can't really get to during dry season. We can kayak further, so we walk a little bit less into Lango. During the drier season, when the rivers narrow out a bit, the rivers drop down, we end up doing more walking. We can't get as far with the boats. We can't explore quite as deep into the forest because a lot of places we can only get to by boat. But obviously what it leads to, when it's drier, there are less watering holes in the forest, so more animals come and drink from the river. So you sometimes have more animal encounters on the river during the drier season. But then at the changeovers between dry and wet seasons, for example, when we have the butterfly migrations, that seems to when they either come through or hatch. So really, every season in the Congo has its nice sides to it. It really depends on the guests when they want to travel.
It almost sounds like you can come to Kamba at 2 different times of the year and you're going to have 2 different experiences, right?
I think every time you come, I've been so many times now, and every time I go, my experience is slightly different when I go out with guests on the walk. So it is really that kind of ecosystem where you can expect changes and different. So yes, it's often people think it's not a return destination for guests, but we actually have more because they think, oh, it's a once in a lifetime. I want to see the gorillas or I want to see the rainforest. But we're really getting more and more guests saying, wow, we want to come back a different time during a different season to experience something different in the forest.
We haven't really touched on the predators in the water, the crocs and the hippos. Is this something that we obviously have to take cognizance of while we're canoeing down the river?
So we do have crocodile and hippos. We are very aware of where the hippos are based and how they move with the rainy or the drier season. So the guides are very aware of that and make sure that the kayak tours don't lead past the hippos. We also always, on the kayak tours, we have 2 guides on the kayaks, one who always goes 400 to 500 meters ahead to really make sure that there is nothing in the water that could potentially be dangerous to the guests. If there is, then we stop and we actually walk ashore for a bit and then re-enter the water. It doesn't happen often, but we are prepared for that eventuality should it happen. We have our population of Nile crocodile is very small. We've only seen them every now and then, and that's usually individual crocodiles. And they're not as big as you would expect them in the big safari destinations where they feed of big mammals, of big antelopes. We have more smaller, they're slender-snouted crocodile. They're quite a bit smaller and they have very narrow snouts and they mostly eat fish. What is quite interesting about them is that they often lays on top of fallen over trees on the side of the river. So you can actually, and those are really safe, so you can actually boat or kayak past them and they sit on the side of the river on a little tree and look down and then drop down into the water. But yes, the guides are aware of those animals that they are there and they're usually also aware of where they are. Having said that, I'm a very happy swimmer in those rivers. So as long as the guides say it's clear, I'm very happy to jump off the boat and go for a swim because it's so refreshing to jump into the rivers in the Congo.
I swim in the Zambezi when I'm fishing on the Zambezi from time to time. And the crocs are bigger there, but I also make sure that it's clear. And like you say, there's nothing quite like letting that river water flow through you in the middle of the day. It is an experience. And while we're on the subject of the experiences, people from all over the world they've got so many options available to come to Africa to experience either safaris or beaches or golfing holidays or fishing even. Why should they come to Kamba?
Because I think Kamba is different. It's definitely for somebody who's been to Africa before. If you want to have a different experience, you want to get away from the mainstream. You want to go somewhere where you are one of maximum a group of 12 because that's all we can take per camp, per lodge. It's very immersive. It's very few people have been and you really become part of nature. So I always find I love the Kruger Park personally, but it's very different driving past an elephant and walking past an elephant on foot. It's 2 different experiences, which I think is something that Kamba can offer. A lot of people don't even know Africa has a rainforest. So it's a very different experience to your usual savanna or bush experience, is to experience the African rainforests. They're also different to the Amazon. So I think it's just a very immersive, tranquil experience. When you want to disconnect, you can sit in the rainforest and just listen to the animals. Sometimes our guests even say we don't want to go on the activities. We just want to sit here and experience nature and experience being one with nature again. And it's so interesting. Most guests come because of the gorillas. By the time they leave after 7, 10 or 11 nights and we say, what was your favorite experience? And then they say, I can't actually tell you anymore. I thought it would be the gorillas, but it is the sum of all the experiences of seeing the gorillas, of meeting elephant on foot, of doing the early boat rides that really defines these trips. And that is what the guests often say, is that the mix of experiences makes Kamba so special that once in a lifetime destination that is so different to any other destination you would have been to in Africa.
Great answer. Kristina, for people that are planning to come from overseas, can you give us a sort of quick rundown as to sort of visa, safety protocols, medicinal jabs, whatever they may or may not need? Quick rundown on that.
So the easiest way is to reach out to info@kambaafrica.com. That is Animart, our reservationist. She is very happy to share all that information, and we have it all printed out on PDF that we can share with people. And Annie will book the whole trip in the Congo. We take part of the visas for people. So as long as we get the passports and the flight itinerary, and we need it about 4 to 6 weeks before people want to travel, we then apply for the visas, and then people get visa on arrival. So there's no more need to go to the Congolese embassy in one's home country, which makes the trip a lot easier. There is a compulsory yellow fever vaccine that the Congo requests that gets checked at the border. So we recommend to people to obviously have that, because you don't want to get the vaccine at the border. And I think you need to get it a week or two before. And we recommend malaria prophylaxis. Besides that, there is a little medical questionnaire that we send to our guests pre-travel that they need to have filled out by their GP, just for us to make sure, because so many of the activities are on foot, just for us to make sure that people are actually fit to do the walking that comes in the Congo. Having said that, it's not rigorous walking. You're not going on massive hikes. But we just need to make sure that people can walk 2 or 3 Ks. We've had people with knee replacements. We've had people with hip replacements come to us. Our oldest participant of a gorilla trek was 86 years old. So we do cater for all that. We just really need for cover and liability reasons, we do ask for a medical form for people to fill out. So yeah, it's malaria prophylaxis, a yellow fever vaccine. We take care of the visas as part of the deal, and then just arrive in the Congo and enjoy the journey.
Now, we haven't spoken about the other 2 properties, Property 1 and Property 3, but I know that what we're going to do in a future podcast is we're going to have an employee of yours, 𝐦𝐤𝐿, who is Kamba Africa's first trained wilderness guide, and he's going to come on the show and tell us a little bit more about the other properties and his own story.
Yes, exactly. 𝐦𝐤𝐿 is our first fully qualified Congolese guide. He's been with us for the last 3 years, I think, and is a fully qualified guide now taking guests. And I think it will be lovely to hear from people of his journey, how he joined Kamba, what he learned at Kamba, and how he is now transforming Kamba in his own way and bringing more and more Congolese guides into our guiding team, and really bringing that Congolese side to the guests, because I think guests really love that when they travel to a country, to also really meet the culture and the people of each country. So I think it will be really exciting for everyone to hear from 𝐦𝐿.
Yeah, and we look forward to that. Kristina, thank you so much for your time and energy and coming on the show today. I really appreciated that.
Thank you for having me today. It's been really, really exciting talking to you. Thank you.
What an uplifting conversation. Thank you so much, Tino, for sharing your story and everything you're doing to grow African tourism. Don't forget, every week we feature fantastic prize giveaways from some of Africa's most beautiful lodges, camps, and travel partners. You could win your own unforgettable getaway just by listening, subscribing, or visiting www.keeptraveling.africa/podcast, or read more about today's guest by scanning through the show notes of today's episode. Don't forget to follow Keep Traveling on social media for the latest episodes, stories, and travel inspiration. I'm 𝐸𝐿, and this has been Keep Traveling, your African story. Remember, a few years from now, you won't remember how much it cost you, but you'll always remember the memories you made. Keep traveling.